Imagine stepping out of a really high-pressure situation that you've been trapped in for years.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a grueling corporate job or simply the end of this massive, all-consuming project. And the moment finally arrives, right? The deadline is met, the chains come off, and you are completely free.
Yeah.
And there is this universal expectation that you're going to feel just pure, unadulterated relief.
Right, the victory lap.
Exactly. But then within a few days, something else kind of creeps in. You wake up on a Tuesday morning, you're entirely in control of your own time, and you realize you have absolutely no idea how to structure your day
Oh, yeah.
or, what to focus on, or even how to make a single meaningful decision without that external pressure hanging over you.
Yeah,
I mean, freedom, it turns out, can be utterly terrifying.
it really can. And that sudden vacuum is what we're tackling today.
Yeah.
We tend to view freedom purely as an endpoint. The grand finale where we finally shed whatever was holding us back.
Yeah.
But the reality, well, when you analyze the mechanics of human behavior, the reality is that true freedom is merely the starting line for a much harder, much less glamorous job.
Which is governing yourself.
Exactly. Governing yourself.
And that is the core mission for this deep dive today. We are exploring this massive gap between simply losing an external master and actually achieving true freedom.
Hmm.
And to map this out, we are pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources. We have 4 entries from the Daily Stoic, including some incredibly sharp essays by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, those are great.
They really are. We're also bringing in Peter Drucker's classic writings on business strategy, plus this rather intense philosophical fragment from Leo Tolstoy on the concept of punishment.
That one is really interesting.
Oh, it's heavy. And we're going to round it out with a collection of insights from historical figures, people like John Wooden, Marian Anderson, and Winston Churchill.
So it's a pretty diverse set of materials.
It is.
But they all converge on one vital thesis. Removing constraints from your life doesn't automatically make you a free person. It simply transfers the heavy burden of leadership directly onto your own shoulders.
Right. So let's test this idea on the macro level first, starting with the birth of a nation, because when we talk about freedom, especially in America, the immediate cultural reflex is, the 4th of July.
Right, the fireworks.
The fireworks, the parades, the celebration of liberty, defeating tyranny. But Ryan Holiday's essay points out something that completely flips this narrative.
It really does.
Winning that liberty was not the American founders' whole bet. In fact, they were terrified of ungoverned freedom.
They were deeply paranoid about it, and they understood classical history well enough to know the dangers of a vacuum.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a group of men trying to sound intellectual by quoting ancient philosophers in their letters, They were navigating a literal existential crisis.
Right.
The sources note that Thomas Jefferson kept the Stoic philosopher Seneca on his nightstand.
It's just right there on the nightstand. And George Washington took it a step further at Valley Forge. The source material highlights Washington staging a play about Cato, who was a famous Roman Stoic.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to picture this environment, right? You have freezing, starving troops. They are completely full of doubt, basically on the verge of mutiny or desertion.
Yeah, morale is at rock bottom.
Exactly. And Washington decides that what they really need to see is a play about a man resisting a tyrant through sheer internal fortitude.
Right.
And actually, Patrick Henry lifted his famous "Give me liberty or give me death" line from that exact same play.
Did he really?
Yeah, he lifted it right from the script.
Wow. Well, that theatrical choice, it highlights a profound strategic understanding on their part. Removing a king doesn't magically install a functioning republic. It just empties the office.
It's just a vacant seat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the Declaration of Independence was signed, it didn't free Americans from the necessity of being governed. It handed them the entire overwhelming job of doing it themselves.
Right.
John Adams captured this fear vividly. He warned that human vices like, quote, avarice, ambition, revenge would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net.
As a whale goes through a net. I love that imagery.
Yeah.
He knew that human nature, if it was left completely unchecked and undisciplined, it would just obliterate any legal system they tried to string together.
Which is why they place such a heavy emphasis on counterbalancing virtues. You cannot sustain a society on liberty alone. You need the architecture of character.
Right, like courage, justice, wisdom.
Exactly, to hold it up. Generations later, President Eisenhower perfectly summarized this when he defined freedom as the opportunity for self-discipline.
Opportunity for self-discipline.
Yeah, it is not the absence of discipline, it is the precondition for it.
You know, it makes me think of like a teenager moving out of their parents' house for the first time.
Oh, classic.
Right? The first few days are just intoxicating. You eat ice cream for dinner, you stay up until 4 a.m.
Total freedom.
Total freedom, but then the electric bill arrives and there is no one left to pay it. The fridge is empty, there's no one to restock it. The freedom to do whatever you want suddenly becomes this crushing responsibility of having to do everything yourself.
It's a rude awakening.
It is. So if the founders knew this so intimately, why is it so easy for modern society to just celebrate the chains coming off part and, completely ignore the electric bill?
Well, because taking the chains off is a singular dramatic event.
Yeah.
It photographs well. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Self-governance, on the other hand, is this quiet, grueling, everyday process that nobody applauds.
Right. Nobody's throwing a parade for you paying your utility bill on time.
Exactly. And what we see in the sources is that this dynamic doesn't just happen to nations and teenagers. It happens systemically to institutions.
Okay.
Peter Drucker's business writings describe how massive organizations fall into this exact same trap when they forget to govern themselves.
Right. He calls this the theory of the business, doesn't he?
Yes, the theory of the business. Drucker explains that every successful organization starts out with a really rigorous theory. This is a clear, highly disciplined understanding of, what they are, who their customer actually is, and the specific mechanics of how they bring value to the market.
Okay, so it's like their foundational DNA.
Right. In the startup phase, this theory is tested and retested constantly. Every assumption is challenged because the company is literally fighting for its life.
Yeah, they have to.
It's an environment of pure discipline.
But then they win. They become successful, and according to Drucker, that success makes them incredibly lazy.
Yeah, and that laziness turns into a very specific kind of institutional amnesia. Drucker notes that an organization in this phase, quote, stops thinking. It stops questioning. It remembers the answers, but has forgotten the questions.
Wow. So they just keep pulling the exact same levers because, well, they generated cash yesterday.
Right.
And they never pause to ask if the machine itself has fundamentally changed.
And this is exactly how giants like GM, IBM, and even those massive Japanese Keiretsu,
Oh, the Keiretsu, yeah.
right, those huge interlocking webs of businesses that seemed financially invincible. This is how they ultimately stumble. They missed massive shifts in technology and consumer behavior because their internal culture had completely replaced their discipline.
Okay, wait. I want to push back on that for a second.
Sure.
Because every modern business book preaches that a strong company culture is the ultimate goal. You hear it constantly, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Oh, absolutely.
So why is Drucker framing culture as this dangerous substitute for discipline?
Well, because culture, in practice, usually devolves into conformity and comfort.
Oh, I see.
It becomes a shield. It turns into, well, that's just how we do things around here.
Ah, the death knell of innovation.
Exactly. Discipline, on the other hand, requires rigorously testing reality, especially when reality is telling you something you do not want to hear.
Right.
When a culture is too comfortable, people stop challenging legacy assumptions. They fall back on institutional habits, and that leads to a really dangerous evasion of actual responsibility.
Yeah.
The sources capture this perfectly with a quote from Admiral Rickover.
Oh, I love this part.
He points out that the phrase, "I am not responsible," is usually just the phrase, "I cannot be held legally liable," dressed up to look like an ethical claim.
I cannot be held legally liable. That is such a crucial distinction.
It's huge. Legal liability and moral responsibility exist in two entirely different universes.
Yeah.
When a company, or even an individual, settles for merely avoiding legal liability, they have quietly surrendered their moral responsibility. They're letting the external boundaries of the legal system govern their ethics, rather than doing the hard work of governing themselves from the inside out.
Man, that abdication of responsibility, that reliance on external rules rather than internal governance, it doesn't just ruin companies, it ruins community.
Oh, undeniably.
Because when an entire society decides to stop doing the hard work of self-governance, it starts looking for shortcuts to deal with bad behavior. Which brings us to the Leo Tolstoy fragment on punishment.
Yes. It is a radical, unsettling perspective.
Very unsettling.
Tolstoy argues that a society's instinct to reach first for punishment is a massive failure of self-governance. He describes the act of punishment as simply answering evil with more evil.
His specific phrasing in the source is that punishment is just putting more wood in the fire.
Right.
But wait, society obviously needs laws and consequences, right?
Sure.
So how is Tolstoy defining punishment here, if not as a necessary tool for justice?
Well, he views the immediate reflexive desire to punish as a low animal feeling.
Okay.
Think about the difference between addressing why a crime happened, doing the grueling work of restorative justice, fixing broken community structures, rehabilitating individuals, versus simply locking someone in a cage and throwing away the key.
Right, the easy way out.
The latter is putting wood on the fire.
Hmm.
When a society institutionalizes that raw, retaliatory reflex, it takes the easy way out. It is a psychological trick that allows an ungoverned society to feel incredibly righteous about its own ungoverned retaliatory reactions.
Oh, wow. So look at how this plays out in modern everyday life. Think about how often we lash out in anger online, or experience road rage, or just snap at a coworker.
Oh, constantly.
Right. We tell ourselves we're dispensing justice because the other person was wrong. It feels good to punish someone else. But really, that righteous anger is just us avoiding the hard work of managing our own internal reactions.
Exactly.
We're letting an external trigger completely dictate our behavior.
It's a complete abdication of self-governance.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the ultimate proving ground for this entire concept. We've looked at the macro level of nations, we've examined corporate institutions, and we've analyzed society's reliance on punishment.
Right.
Now, let's zoom all the way into the individual mind. Because if self-governance is the only true form of freedom, we have to ask who actually manages to achieve it.
And this might be the most fascinating historical contrast in the entire stack of sources.
I agree.
We get this incredible paradox between three specific Roman figures. You have Seneca, who was quite literally the richest man in Rome. He wielded immense financial influence.
Okay.
Then you have Epaphroditus, who was one of the most politically powerful and connected men in the empire.
Right.
And then you have Epictetus, who was their slave. He owned absolutely nothing, not even his own body.
And yet, the Stoic tradition considered Epictetus to be the freest of the three men.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the Stoic view here is that extreme wealth and political power actually created more constraints for Seneca than poverty and slavery did for Epictetus.
Precisely. Seneca, despite all his unimaginable wealth, was trapped in the gilded cage of his own making.
A gilded cage.
Yeah, he was so tied to his political standing, his reputation, and his sprawling assets that he couldn't even quit his advisory job without getting formal permission from the emperor.
Wow.
His captivity wasn't built from iron bars. It was built from massive estates, prestigious titles, and all the luxury he was utterly unwilling to part with.
So Seneca was basically wearing golden handcuffs.
Exactly.
It's the same way someone today takes a miserable, high-stress job just to pay for the luxury cars and vacations they need to cope with the miserable job.
Right, the treadmill.
Yeah, they can't leave because they need the salary to maintain the lifestyle. They have everything, but their things completely own them.
Epictetus understood this trap perfectly. He has a quote that cuts right through the illusion.
What's the quote?
He said, "It is better to starve to death in a calm and confident state of mind than to live anxiously amidst abundance."
Better to starve in a calm state of mind. That is heavy.
It is. And Seneca himself actually recognized this tragic irony in his own life. He wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power."
Wow.
So freedom isn't just lacking a physical master. It's the state of not needing a master because you are one to yourself. Seneca even categorized the hidden masters that most people willingly serve without noticing.
Yeah, in the sources, he lists money, fear, habit, and whatever everyone else is doing.
Ah, the master of conformity.
Yes, conformity. They are self-imposed prisons.
They are.
We surrender our autonomy to the hidden master of maintaining a specific socio-economic image, or the hidden master of our own unchecked anxiety, which raises the really practical question. If we acknowledge that we all serve these hidden masters, how do we actually break free? How is this self-mastery practiced on a daily basis?
Well, the daily Stoic sources give us this really beautiful, actionable concept to answer that. They call it protect the flame.
Protect the flame.
The idea is that the good inside you, your core character, your integrity, your focus, is this small, fragile flame.
Yeah.
And absolutely nobody else can feed it or protect it from the wind but you.
And it requires relentless daily tending.
Right.
It's not a one-time achievement like winning a revolution. It's a continuous, often exhausting practice. Epictetus actually laid out a deceptively simple rule for this. He said, first, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be. then do what you have to do. And the sources give us this amazing collection of aphorisms from widely different fields, showing exactly what tending that flame looks like when the pressure is on.
Yeah, these are great examples.
I really want to spend some time on these because the mechanics of how these people operated are just incredible. Take Josh Waitzkin, for example, the chess prodigy and martial arts champion.
Oh, yeah?
He talks specifically about answering heartbreak with work.
Waitzkin's approach is a total masterclass in this. Heartbreak or emotional devastation usually acts as a master that completely paralyzes a person, right?
Right.
The chaotic energy of grief scatters your focus. But Waitzkin practiced forcing that intense, chaotic emotional energy through a highly disciplined, narrow funnel.
Whether that was on the chessboard or the martial arts mat.
Exactly. He didn't suppress the heartbreak. He governed it, turning a liability into a relentless drive for his work.
You see a similar mechanism in Winston Churchill. His famous definition of success was going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm.
That's a class.
It is, but think about what that requires. It requires a conscious refusal to let external defeat dictate your internal state. If your enthusiasm depends entirely on winning, then winning is your master.
That's a great point. Then you look at John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach. He spent a massive amount of time warning his star players against conceit.
Okay, so that's discipline turned toward humility.
Yes. It is incredibly easy to let ego become your master when you are constantly winning and everyone is telling you how great you are.
Right.
Wooden forced his players to govern their own egos before success could warp their character.
Now, contrast that with Marian Anderson, the groundbreaking singer who faced just horrific racial prejudice.
Yeah, her story is incredible.
Her discipline was turned toward hope. She maintained a deep, unwavering belief in her people and her country, even when society was giving her every reason to become cynical. It takes far more internal governance to hold on to hope under the crushing weight of prejudice than it does to simply give in to bitterness.
Oh, absolutely.
Bitterness is the easy, ungoverned reaction.
We also see this outward focus in Vince Lombardi.
Okay.
He talked about chasing perfection to ultimately catch excellence. And Simon Sinek, who insists that leaders must name their why before they figure out their what.
Right.
In both cases, self-mastery isn't just about internal restraint, it's about pointing your discipline outward toward a distinct, chosen purpose.
But, there is a huge misconception here that we need to clear up.
Okay, what's up?
When people hear stoicism or self-mastery, they usually picture someone flattening their nature.
Oh, right.
Becoming this cold, emotionless robot who never feels sad or excited, just a stone wall.
The sources provide two brilliant bookends that completely dismantle that misconception.
Thank goodness.
The first is a Spanish proverb, frío en invierno y calor en verano. Eso es lo sano. Cold in the winter, heat in the summer. That is what is healthy.
I love that. And the second bookend was a note on embracing your personal funk in training, like acknowledging the messy, fluctuating reality of just being a human being.
Self-mastery is not about destroying your emotions or attempting to override your fundamental nature.
Right.
That is a fool's errand. True governance is about managing wisely within those realities. It's about letting the winter be cold and the summer be hot. You're allowed to feel your grief profoundly or experience wild joy. But the discipline lies in keeping those emotions from running completely unchecked and becoming your master. You feel the funk, but you don't let the funk dictate your entire identity.
Which brings us full circle all the way back to the 4th of July and the physical representation of these ideas.
Yeah.
Ryan Holiday makes an observation in his essay that is so simple, but once you hear it, you will never look at a map the same way again.
It's brilliant.
If you look out at New York Harbor, there is this massive, breathtaking Statue of Liberty. Everyone reveres it. It is the defining symbol of the chains coming off.
Yes.
But there is no matching Statue of Responsibility.
And that absence is not a historical oversight by the architects. You cannot build a monument to responsibility out of bronze and drop it in a harbor for people to take pictures of.
Because responsibility has to be built inside.
Exactly.
It has to be constructed within the mind of each individual, maintained within the culture of every organization, and fiercely rebuilt by every single generation. Just like Epictetus managed to build it out of absolute nothingness, while Seneca, with all the resources in the world, struggled to build it within his gilded cage.
There is an unattributed quote in the text that perfectly crystallizes this entire dynamic.
What is it?
You are free to choose, but you are not free from the consequences of your choice.
Wow.
The 4th of July, or any moment of liberation in your life, doesn't permanently settle the question of freedom. It merely hands the heavy question down to whoever is claiming that freedom.
You are not free from the consequences of your choice. It fundamentally reframes what we are actually asking for when we demand freedom. We are asking for the burden of consequence.
We are. And when you trace that logic all the way to its end, it leaves us with a rather provocative thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
If true freedom requires this relentless, daily, exhausting work of self-mastery just to protect the flame,
Yeah.
is the state of true freedom actually more exhausting than the state of captivity?
Yeah.
And if we're being brutally honest with ourselves, is that exhaustion the secret reason why so many people willingly surrender their liberty back to those hidden masters like habit, conformity, and money?
Is the exhaustion of being truly free the reason we so often choose the gilded cage?
It's a tough question.
That is an incredible question to leave off on. To everyone listening, it's time to take a hard look at your own life. What are your hidden masters? What habits, fears, or financial traps are you quietly letting run the show just because it feels easier than governing yourself? Keep questioning those invisible chains, keep protecting that flame, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.